before we start, I want to thank everybody on YouTube who has been very supportive of me uploading all these batches of videos. Like, basically what I've been doing, I took the stream from Saturday and the stream from Sunday, and I upload 3 videos a day. One at midnight, one at 12 in the morning, and one at 16 o'clock London time. And I'm really appreciating all the likes and the comments I'm getting. I really appreciate the support I'm getting. I understand that I lost a couple subscribers because that's not what they subscribed to me to, but I promise that I'm gonna work on the original stuff I worked with when I started my channel, which is reactions and montages and all that stuff. I promise I will come back. But for now, I do appreciate. Really, it's also been very positive, to be honest. Like, everybody's been saying hey, I really love your videos. Keep going. Your videos are doing really great. Asking me really silly but fun questions. I love one question when somebody asked if I was a scientist of the SCP Foundation and if I go by Dr. Afro or Dr. Fluff, and I was just that's creative question. I like that. So I just said because technically speaking, through this whole reading time, I always saw myself as somebody who just infiltrated the SCP Foundation and then just found all these documents. I was trying to read through them real quick before I get caught. But if I was a Foundation employee, I think I would be a researcher at first, because I feel like to be a doctor, you would have to have vast knowledge about most of the SCPs that you have to deal with. And since I don't, I feel like I would be in the intern researcher or just researcher level right now. Just be okay, let me just read all this stuff through real quick before I can even jump into any of the physical work. But yeah, no, I really do appreciate the comments and the likes. Okay, but for now, how about we start with the first one? We have refractive explorers. If I recall correctly, refractive explorers. Refractive means if light shines into a surface and it gets the angle of the light changes. It's not reflecting, but it's changing the direction. So if it comes at a 45-degree angle into a surface and it goes then maybe, let's just say, 60-degree angle, that should be refractive, correct? I might be wrong. I haven't used the word refractive or read the word refractive in forever. So I hope I'm not sounding like an absolute idiot. But to be honest, if I do sound like an absolute idiot, that's really on brand for me. I don't mind sounding like an idiot because most of the time when I do, I'm doing it in good jokes. So, might as well dive. I don't like that image. But it does explain the whole refractive part. It does explain the whole refractive part. Because light seems to be bending around them, which makes them not invisible, but really shaping the environment. That makes sense. I will use this as a thumbnail, and I'm sorry people who like my original thumbnails, but sometimes to make thumbnails because I have to make 20. Whenever I finish streaming on Saturday and Sunday, I have to make 20 thumbnails. So if it gives me this option from the get-go, you have to understand that I'm just gonna use it. All right, let's do it. Euclid. The current known extent. My God, this first sentence I already fucked it up. The current known extent of SCP-1320 habitat, as well as no less than a 5-kilometer radius of land from the estimated center, is to be owned by Foundation front companies and observed at all times. A concrete wall at least 4 meters high is to be constructed and maintained around the perimeter, and integrated ultrasonic motion detectors are to be placed at 20-meter intervals to monitor for breaches. At least once per week during a period of inactivity, at least 10 items not previously encountered by members of SCP-1320 are to be introduced into the habitat via airlift as close to the center as feasible. For a list of items already encountered by SCP-1320, please see document 1320-4071-A. Should individual members of SCP-1320 be observed leaving the containment area, a general alarm is to be sounded and MTF-G41 Ghost Watchers is to be brought on station to return the individuals to the habitat. Should containment not be possible, observational command is to be notified and currently allocated areas are to be adjusted accordingly. So first, two things. So they seem to like want to like break out, because like we just got from this whole paragraph here that occasionally they do break out. They just like leave. And it seems like depending on certain situation, you cannot even contain them. Is it because you cannot really see them? Or like because like seeing them is a bit rough? Like what's the cause that makes it like, oh, it's not right now, it is not possible to contain this one? Because, like, they seem to be, like, normal human beings. I don't think they can just phase through walls. And even if it's a room that makes them harder for you to see them, you're still containing them. So I wonder what the cause would be that would be like, oh, this is not a good situation. Oh, this is not a good containment room for them. SCP-1320 is the group designation for anomalous sapient species native to a roughly 6 square kilometer of area of redacted. Let me double check that it's actually on the right. Yeah, it is. It's on the right setting. Known to be heavily forested and sparsely populated, the species shows a unique ability to refract electromagnetic radiation around their forms. This is most easily identifiable in the fact that the light bends around them, rendering them somewhat transparent or reflective depending on angles, but the refraction extends to all currently tested wavelengths of the spectrum. A side effect of this anomaly is that individuals are able to seemingly appear or disappear when not directly in view. Okay, so that does make it hard for you to see them, which I assume, but that still doesn't mean that they're not contained, because they just seem to disappear, right? So like if let's just say there's like one right there in that corner of the room, right? And I'm looking away, and then I look back, and then it's gone. It does not mean that it's gone from the room, though. It will still be there. At least that's what I understand. So I would still be like, okay, I don't see him anymore, but like the door is closed, so and I'm the one with the key. So if he wants to get out, he would have to take the key from me. So at the end, I know he's still in this room. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I'm trying to, and I know it's gonna be answered, but I think it's always fascinating to like read SCPs and then just ask questions out loud, because sometimes it just helps you remember like what type of questions you have, and sometimes it's just nice to see them answered. But very rarely, there is no answer. Or I say rarely, it's actually not really that rare. It's like a 50-50. Members of SCP-1320 are not believed to be able to teleport or in any other way shift themselves. They're simply well camouflaged. I forgot my donut downstairs. They're simply well camouflaged and silent by nature and are able to utilize their anomalous properties as means of evasion. Primarily, they have utilized such tactics to interfere with any attempt to retrieve specimens, ambushing groups attempting to capture one alive and swiftly removing any of their kind that are injured or otherwise incapacitated. Okay. Yeah, see, so now, back to what I said about, like, if he was in the room with me and he vanished, then yeah, he would ambush me, because I couldn't know where he is. Individuals of SCP-1320 are humanoid in shape, averaging between 2.7 and 3.2 meters in height. Oh, they're colossal. 3.2 meters? Oh, God. That's nearly double my height. I'm 1.8 meters. Jesus. That is tall as shit. Additionally, the distortion effects that surrounds them makes individuals appear to be between 1 and 1.5 centimeters thick. Also, they're like almost like paper. They look paper thin. Okay. Remote ultrasound imaging has confirmed that the actual physical body is less than 1 micrometer thick. Oh, wow, they're thin too. What if it's not the refraction that makes them invisible? What if it's just them just moving to the side like Paper Mario does? It's like I'm not here. Despite this, individuals have shown a level of physical strength and dexterity roughly equivalent to an average human, save an ability to shear objects at a near molecular level. Pardon? Shear at a near molecular level? Also, they're that giant and they have average human strength, not a little bit stronger? I don't think so, good sir. I don't think so. It is estimated that the tips of the extremities are narrowed to within a few dozen nanometers and are extremely durable, allowing for this level of sharpness and precision. Oh god, they're gonna cut me up at a molecular level. Slice me and dice me, and I don't even know if it's happening or not until it's too late. Typically, members of SCP-1320 are not hostile unless provoked, instead showing an inquisitive nature, with small groups scattering around any type of object that is new to the habitat and studying it thoroughly. This inevitably concludes with individuals cutting the object into successfully smaller pieces, even if it is biological in nature. While they appear to lose interest in specific object within 3 to 4 days and will largely ignore repetitive stimulus, similar objects are sufficiently unique will attract their attention anew. For instance, after growing accustomed to Dr. Sphere trees, Pseudotsuga, they still showed interest in both cedar, Cedrus, and pine, Pinus species. It is believed that this inquisitive nature is the driving force behind SCP-1320's instinct, as no member of the species has been observed attempting to leave an inhabited area until all new forms of objects have been thoroughly examined. Okay, there's just a little sign. I mean, the explorers. Refractive explorers, so it makes sense. Despite the fact that no light or other electromagnetic waves should be able to permeate the refractive nature, SCP-1320 are observed to be looking at objects using a form of sensory adaptation we have not been able to detect or duplicate. Similarly, members of SCP-1320 have never been observed to make... I just realized something. I don't have to overlay. To make any sort of vocalization, but apparently are able to communicate with one another. To date, SCP-1320 have not been observed to perform any sort of construction or assembly. It is not known whether they do not have intelligence or desire for such activities, or if they have somehow been able to hide their constructs. Given the fact that individuals have been described as disappearing, even when under direct observation, this has led to great difficulty in tracking them to any type of central nest or housing area. So when you said that sometimes containing them is impossible, is it because they can shear things at a molecular level? Because that would make sense, right? That would make sense why they're like, okay, we cannot contain them in this place because they just cut through it. Incident 1, on the 8th, 17th, a group of D-class subjects under observation by researcher Grant was introduced new stimulus into the SCP-1320 habitat, which at the time was contained in a steel mesh fence and was just below 2 kilometers on the side. Incident 1 was the first time that SCP-1320 was observed to have any sort of large-scale hostility. What follows is an interview conducted by one of the few survivors, and here we have an interview log. Well, that's access interview log 12. Okay, Dr. Kenner, Agent F. 8th, 18th, 1345. Let's begin. For the record, please state your full name and position at the time of the incident. Yes, sir. I'm F. Level 3 security agent, member of MTF G41. On the date in question, I was acting as observation and aerial marksman. Thank you, but you don't have to call me sir. I never was part of any military structure. Please describe the event that led up to the security breach as best as you can. Of course, Grant and the D's had headed into the fenced-off zone, delivering the weekly batch of stuff to keep them occupied. Drop-off went well, and they were heading out when one of the D's spotted one of the frags digging at the fence. I'm sorry, frags. Oh, sorry, it's a nickname someone came up with for the skips, kinda shortened down, refracted. Easier than 1320, you know. Jim always thought we could call them reefers, but he got watered down. I see. Continue, please. Well, the D sees this thing poking around like I said, and all of a sudden starts yelling at it, told it to get away from the fence. I heard over the radio that they were telling him to back off, but when the frag didn't back away, he chucked a rock at its head. Pretty good aim, actually. Actually knocked it over. That's when all hell broke loose. I don't think anyone told these guys just how sharp the frag's claws are, or how fast they run. I mean, to be fair, my guy, they're almost 3 meters tall. Even if they couldn't run fast, they could still outrun you just from the sheer leg size. Like 1 step for them would be 3 steps for us. So of course, it doesn't matter how fast they are. They could potentially keep up or catch up to you. I was not aware that they had any anomalous properties regarding their speed. I don't know if you'd call it anomalous. They're just fast. They could lap an Olympic racer. Point is, I don't think the guy even saw the one that ran up on him before he was torn apart. Grant and 2 of the other D's booked it for the gate. One of them turned to try and help his buddy, I guess. He lasted about 3 seconds. This was when the firefight started. Yeah, the group made it through the gate and it closed, but the frags just started to tear through it like paper. Someone shouted fire. I really can't say it was anyone with authority, but with all the comm chatter. A couple of them dropped, but Christ, it was like they were just hiding and waiting. There must have been 2 dozens of the things that came charging out of the tree line. I think I took a couple of them down, but then they were at the fence and then people started dying. What is your assessment of their combat prowess, Agent? Frankly, I don't think they have much of it. They don't seem built for combat. They're explorers, investigators. If these things were on wide open plain with plenty of time to see them coming, this would never have happened. It's the fact that where they are, they can duck in and out of cover, seems like just a trick of the light, and if they decide they want you dead and they get right on top of you, unless you get in a good, quick, debilitating shot, you're dead. They also have some good stamina. One jeep got away, made it a few clicks before they stopped to get their bearings. Well, I figured they lost them. I heard that all that was found was a few chunks of shredded metal and a bit of meat. Whoa, so they can keep up with vehicles. That is a somewhat accurate statement. That should be all, Agent, unless you have anything else to add to the official record. Just one. I was talking to... He was doing the observation run this morning. He says he saw a few wandering the forest. Those things never once tried to even get past the fence before now, and suddenly they're spreading. I think these things will only stick to the territory they already explored, but when they started chasing people through the woods in a rage, that territory expanded. We need to move the perimeter out, and we need to make it tougher. Taking the above interview and further investigation of the patterns of SCP-1320 behavior, it was confirmed that the assumed territory had expanded to the currently held ranges. Containment procedures were upgraded, and in light of the potential threat, Dr. Kenner put forth an official request to upgrade SCP-1320 to Keter status. The escalated security measures have kept them in check since the single incident, thus increasing the status to Keter has been denied until such time that SCP-1320 demonstrates a continual active intent and ability to breach containment. 05. What was the rating of this one? Oh, 1 of 105. I would have given that a 300 rating. That was pretty good. Honestly, the idea of these supersized humanoid beings that it's very hard to see, and sometimes you lose track of them. Just to get shredded apart. It's pretty terrifying. But at the end, Like the vlog said, as long as you don't bother them, you're good. You don't have to worry too much about it. If you don't be a dick to them, like for example throw a rock at their face, then you should be fine. But other than that, yeah, anything else besides that might just get you in a big fat problem.